We used to be called web development, right?
Yeah, this is formerly web dev. I'm gonna
Okay.
drop that in announcements for 2026.
Okay.
Um, so I guess we can go ahead and get started. People can continue to join if they join. So this is the December 2025 koha-US koha customizations, parentheses, formerly web development, in parentheses, special interest group. I missed the last two meetings. I did watch the recording, so thank you everybody who's been here and actually like been doing stuff. I'm Jason, by the way. I co-lead this group with Lucas. So I don't have an agenda or anything. We talk about customizing Koha here, so like CSS, jQuery, HTML, uh, and just cool stuff you've been doing. So hi Chip. Um, does anybody have questions or things they want to talk about or cool stuff they've done or broken or need help fixing?
Brought this up in another meeting, but I did have a customization that I didn't realize was a customization, which was my holds queue pulling from a SQL report. And now we're back on track to using the holds queue as Koha intended. But I did get a link or a button in for my old SQL report, so I'm happy.
Okay, cool. I'm glad you solved that. I should have made notes. I'm gonna be better about notes for 2026. That's my resolution. Um, as far because I know you guys talked about some cool stuff last time. Angela talked about 856 links not working right. I think there's a bug for that.
Yeah, the ability to hide them or do something out in the OPAC. Um, the 856 subfield 7 is supposed to be a trigger to either hide it or show it, and it's not hiding anything.
Yeah, I imagine that functionality just needs cooked into Koha at some point. That wasn't considered. Um, Trying to think if there's anything. Something I did recently, I guess, was add a little duplication indicator to certain reports. I can show that off with jQuery. Let me pull some stuff up. And I think I talked about this in the consortium SIG a little, but it is a customization, so it counts for this SIG.
Look forward
Okay.
to the SQL report. So anytime anybody wants to talk about SQL, I am down.
And sure, if you have questions or want to talk, yeah, anything. We can talk about anything here. Open forum. Okay, so this is not the screen I wanted. This is the screen I wanted. So we have this little button up here. We use club holds extensively in our consortium. So we use the clubs for what we call author clubs, where a patron can sign up and they say, I want every new book by James Patterson, basically. So we're using the clubs feature to track that, and then I use a series of reports to monitor my catalogers do. I don't do this anymore. Monitor all the incoming books to then put those holds on. So a problem that we ran into with that was our audiobook specifically. We'll get multiple copies of it. There'll be a record that has 11 discs and a record that has 12 discs, and we want to avoid placing the holds on both of those records. So I used some jQuery, and I openly admit to I Googled and AI wrote a little bit of code, and then I adapted it to create a function that would search through the table for exact duplicate titles, and then I just added a little highlight to any title cell that has an exact match. So you can see we've got two copies of this Nora Roberts book. We did mistakenly add this before I added the code, mistakenly added the holds to both records. So those two patrons that are in that club got both copies. They got the title twice. But we avoided it with this one. So if I scroll down, you can see we did place club holds on the Academy the first time we got it, so we didn't place club holds the second time. And the code for that, then here. So it's just a function here to sort of iterate through the table. This is the part that I kind of adapted from the AI answer, so it probably needs a little more review, but I just plugged it in. So it's looking for at results. That's the name of the table, the ID of the table. It's looking at the rows in the table. And then this part is looking for dupes. And then I call the function later on just for those specific reports, so it's not happening everywhere. So we go down here, you can see that I'm targeting specifically these report IDs, which correspond with these three reports, and saying, hey, if that happened, or call it, if it happened, add a highlight. Something I threw together last week in response to an issue that we were having. Oh, we have more people here. Yay. Welcome everybody. Hi Kristi, hi Mike. Do you guys have things you would like to share with the group, or questions, or anything really?
I have a question. I'm working on setting up this notification for a specific patron category. So here's the scenario. We have hotspots, and our new policy from our AV coordinator is that if you get a certain number of, like, you haven't returned it and you're blocked basically for like a whole year. And that goes with the patron category. I set it up with like circ rules so that you can do everything but check out hotspots basically. But I need to be able to send notifications through Koha or my vendor message me in order to tell them, hey, your account's been blocked because, you've basically you haven't been following our rules. So here's your warning. This is your 1 year. In 1 year, you can get your account stuff back. But is there like besides custom notification or custom message in Koha that I can use for this sort of message to trigger sending that kind of notification? Because custom message, what I've been able to do with it is I can send an email directly from the patron's account, but I can't do it with phone or SMS because it's specifically for emailing directly from the patron's account. So the patron custom message doesn't work. Is there like another notification that anybody knows of that can do what I want it to do? Or should I ask for an enhancement or a cron job specifically for this patron? My thought is that if I set the patrons category to block the account, maybe every time I set it to that patron category, is there a cron job that I can like tell Koha to do? Just send that message directly when that patron category is that possible, or is that even a thing?
I can't think of a way to. I guess if you're using a patron category, you could use the overdue notice triggers, because you could adapt an overdue notice to be that message, since it would only be triggering for that category, and you could set it to like a 1-day delay or something like that.
So it would be like an additional overdue. So I'll have my overdue. I have 3 right now. The 1, 2, 3 that are sent to out automatically. And they're part of my cron job. Would I then have to create like a 4th overdue and ask Koha or Bywater to connect it to a different cron job, or like?
No, yeah, you only get 3 notices in those triggers, so you would have
Yeah.
to adapt one of the 3 for that specific patron category to do
Um,
the extra messaging, maybe. I don't know. Does anybody else have ideas on that one? There is like a patron emailer plugin too that might be useful. But that may have been the one that they started discouraging people from using. I don't know. I would definitely like explain the use case scenario to Bywater and see if they have any other solutions, because you can do things with reports to send out notices as well, I think.
I can do email fine. It's just my SMS and phone that I'm trying to connect to that when I'm trying to change the customization, I guess.
Even so, I mean, you'd like it to be automated, but even if it wasn't automated, that would still.
That would still work if it wasn't automated. If I can go in and like trigger whatever change I did would trigger the message to go out, that would be great, as long as it's not coming directly from staff accounts, because we don't want that. We do have group email accounts, but we don't want to have staff going in and just doing the whole process of like looking for people to send emails to. And I want it set up in the notifications or the notices module so that all my messaging goes out with like either Spanish or English, because we do have the Spanish language pack enabled. Just to make it more complicated.
Only thought, like on the tip of my mind, and we don't even really use these ourselves, but is if you could maybe jerry rig the welcome notice on a patient record and target a specific, like that, the patron category. I don't know how that does or does not work with SMS. I don't know if it just like looks like you could use it, but it's still only email. I have no idea.
No, it does, because we
Okay.
use welcome,
Okay.
and whenever welcome is triggered, it's when we're creating the account. But no, I think that could work actually. Well, I would like to test it out, but
Yeah.
ooh, that's good. That's really good. Okay, thank you. I'll talk to some my people. Awesome. This is why I come to these meetings. Thanks, guys.
I have something I could share if you want. I mentioned it at the tail end of the last meeting, the offline tool that I made.
Oh, yeah.
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so the story behind this one, prior to me writing this, you had two options for an offline tool. You either had the one you could download if you're on a Windows system and install that way, or you could install a Firefox plugin. We're a relatively new system, so we're using all donated hardware and stuff. And so pretty much everything was running on Linux. So neither of those options was really easy to set up or deploy. So I found the offline, what do they call it, spec, the specification for the offline file, and said, well, I can write one of those. So I wrote a one-page uh, website basically that lets you check in and check out, download the KOC file, and then down at the bottom here, I have instructions on where you go in Koha to upload the file. And so it makes it, here, let me get a book here. So like if I was checking in a book, I can still use my barcode scanner. And so right there it shows it's a return, or if I wanted to check something out, I'll just make up a number. And so it generates the KOC file right there. And then when you're ready to upload it, like when your internet comes back online, you click download data file, and that'll let you save the file. So it just looks like that. And then you go into Koha and you can upload that file and apply it, and it'll keep track of all your stuff. The reason this was such a big deal for us is we get regular power blips and internet outages. And so we have 5 branches in our system, and to lose one branch for a day or a couple hours is kind of a big deal, as you guys know. So having a simple tool that's just download this one file. If the internet goes down, just pull this up and you can continue checking stuff in and out. I've even walked people through uploading and applying the changes afterwards. It made it a lot simpler than, okay, well, you have to go to this website, and then you have to download this, and then you have to set these settings, and then you have to, all before you could even do anything. Because in a crisis, you just want it to work. You need something that just, you open it up and it works. So that's kind of what the idea behind this file was. And I can put the download link for this in the chat if people are interested in it.
Yes, definitely. This is awesome. I remember seeing this come across the Slack at some point, and I just hadn't revisited it. But
Same,
we've
yeah.
tried to use the Windows tool before, and we've had like staff-induced mishaps with it, and I think this would avoid those. So yeah, please do share.
Yeah. And I made sure that, it persists. If you're in check-in mode, the cursor stays there each time. If you're in check-out mode, it keeps the patron's card number and keeps the cursor there, just to make it as stupid simple as possible. Because in some of our branches, we have librarians that are technologically declined, I think is the term. And so making it as easy as possible for them was top priority.
Does this if this were to be accidentally closed by a staff member before hitting download, does it like preserve that in any sort of way? Or
Yes.
would
Yeah,
like a
I save it to the local
local
storage,
storage?
and it will not
Perfect.
it will not delete until you hit this clear button down here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of technologically, I I I see that it's an HTML page. So like if it's a power outage, if it's like an internet outage, how is this? And you probably already explained that, but how are you using then?
Yeah. So here, let me put the link in the chat here.
Okay.
And Cloudflare is not blocking it or anything. It's working okay. Like everybody's like has access and everything.
So the way this works is you actually download the web page to your desktop,
Got it. Okay.
and then you can open it in whatever browser you prefer. Like, it's not tied to a browser, it's not tied to an operating system. It is system agnostic.
And on Windows workstations, you don't need the admin password, which is a thing we ran into with some of our libraries. As long as you're allowed to download something, it should just work, right?
Correct. There we are. There we go. So this is the documentation, kind of explains how it works, what we've tested it on so far. To actually download the file, it's this one right here, the cult.html, which brings you to this scary screen here, and then you just hit this download file and then save that to your desktop. And that's it. That's the entire install process. So as long as you have this downloaded while you still have internet, you can continue to check stuff out. The one thing I have not tried yet, but I'm pretty sure would still work, is downloading it on your phone or on a tablet. Like, if your phone still has internet, as long as you have a way to run a local web page on your phone, it should still work. but I would recommend setting it up before the power outage just to make sure everybody's set up, ready to go if it ever happens. So, any questions, comments?
No, I think that's really good. Because I think the browser plugin or the other one, I don't think anyone's supporting them, or they haven't been updated for a long time. So I'm not sure even whether they're broken. So something that works is really good. Yeah, excellent.
Well, the simpler, the better. The less setup, the less you have to support. So I did have one feedback comment on, is there somewhere you could add what branch or which checkout station was using that particular file? If you go in the HTML, you can actually change this generator field to a specific branch, or as you're saving it, you can say which branch or which workstation that particular offline file is from.
That's awesome. And it definitely beats our old-fashioned pop open an Excel spreadsheet and scan your barcodes in there method. So I'm definitely gonna look into like implementing this for our libraries. Because we have a lot of small rural libraries and they run into power outages as well. Internet outages more frequently than we'd like, and they track things on paper more frequently than I'd like. So this is a nice simple tool that would definitely work for us.
And we utilize this a lot. What we're trying to get away from is staff getting a hotspot and connecting it to their computer so they still have access to the internet and Koha. So if we can use offline Koha, that would be better, I think.
Yeah, we had one library in our consortium mention that, like, at a certain time every day, they just cut the internet every day. And so having a tool like this that's just there ready to go without any real setup was a huge help for them.
Cool. Thanks for sharing. That was awesome. Does anybody else have questions or things you want to share? Customizations you've done recently or not so recently? It is nice to just sort of see what people are doing to see if there are ideas we want to like borrow, harvest, or maybe like submit as an enhancement request because everybody could benefit from it.
So Chris and I are working together on a floating module, and we're basically looking to get it as an enhancement. So we've talked to Bywater and to Open Fifth to see if what our needs for the floating module, basically because the floating module, not floating module, there is no such thing as floating module. We want a floating module. Right now, what we can float is only by item type, but we would like to control it closer to what we had, closer to what it looked like in Polaris, which we both use, which is collection code and like individual items, even if it's possible. Like have a little bit more control and have an actual module for floating. But I have notes if anybody's interested in either joining in the project or just taking a look at what we have. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you'd like, you can email me here, and we're trying to get partners, if anything. So, and any additional feedback to kind of share this out if you're interested. if you want to email me, I can send you what we have. And if you have suggestions or if you want to join in the enhancement request, we're always looking for partners.
We have never done floating here at Maine up until we've recently migrated in a new county, Somerset, who has like we tried to whittle down our item types as much as possible, but as you said, like it has to be by item type. So we created a new item type for them to use because they only want to, it's not all their collections, just some of them. But the issue we ran into, having never really thought about floating before, is on Aspen and really our mobile app as well. Everything is looking at, we have everything looking at the home location for a library. And I mean, we put it in take with Bywater, but they're like, well, why don't you just switch it to current location? And it's like, well, for a consortium, that's kind of weird because then it looks like everybody's items are, at least from our patrons' perspective, we're a former Polaris library as well. Like from our patrons' perspectives, it's kind of like their home, that item's home library is just like constantly changing when you know. Um, and and I actually don't even think that would, if we were still on Polaris but also still on Aspen, feel like it wouldn't be an issue because it just Polaris handles like the current location completely differently. Whereas Koha, like I think the benefit and drawback with the way Koha handles items, like they're very portable because they're using just mark information, but they're limited to how many actual properties you can add to an item, like at least for like a mark subfield, you know? So like Koha only has home location and the current location, where we're kind of looking for I mean, essentially, we asked them if they could do a cron job or something. We're waiting to hear back from them so that our one county can float and then just have the home location automatically match the current location once the thing becomes available. Don't know if that's viable or not, but yeah, we've run into that. And I also don't want to speak for all consortium, but like I feel like I'm curious, is that how other people work it? Where like regardless of if something is available or not, like if it's checked out, like it still shows the home library, like in the catalog or in Aspen, like, or do people do it like a bunch of different ways? Like,
We only have one like floating collection, and it's our rotating collection really. So the home library is always rotation, like SEKLS rotation, and then it floats to the when it gets checked out, um, it'll float to the library it was checked out at, and that'll be the current location until it gets checked out at another place. But it's a special wonky collection anyways, because we don't holds on it. They go in boxes and they rotate in sequence, which we could use stock rotation for, but it gets complicated by the fact that not all my library stops are in our consortium. So
okay,
yeah, we have it set up as like a hybrid floating collection, not like a true floating collection.
gotcha.
Yeah, if we're doing a display, we do that. We use the rotation to move it around, but we've just left the floating alone because what we would like to float is basically like children fiction and not all books, because all books would just cause chaos. We just want to like rejuvenate like certain libraries because we have a lot of rural libraries, and just like getting back the same materials is just, I feel like we could help our circulation stats if it was like just moving around, like especially if it's the one collection that they're interested in, that I know that people are going to check out. Plus, there's only so many times you can read a specific picture book before your kids goes, like, I don't want to read that anymore. But yeah, if you're interested.
Is there like a bug number or anything for that yet, or is it still just sort of getting spec'd out?
Not yet. So we also had, when we first went on to Koha back in 2021, we asked for an enhancement for a floating collection because again, we also came from Polaris. I've never actually done floating Polaris, but I've heard it's pretty good. So we had asked for it and it is kind of a floating module, but it's only on item type. And that one is 28530, which actually just got signed off yesterday. But again, it's not exactly what we were looking for because with item types, right, you've got book, which at least with like so if yeah, you're interested in floating at all, Charlie's explanation of what she is looking for is spot on for us, especially not only because it's collection code and possibly shelving location, but kind of the back end of it. Our collection development manager just showed me this transfer list that she did throughout the year, and it looks like we've been transferring, like our branches have been working so much to try and transfer things because kind of like Charlie, we have several, like we've got two big libraries in our system, and then a couple of like ones in the middle, and then smaller rural ones that are out and they're trying to send their stuff in, but then they're sending it to a branch that already has the stuff or already had it. And so it's been a bit of a mess. And so her kind of also, this is going to save our collection development department and our branch staff because it's going to make it so that, you know, it's going to transfer, like it's going to transfer to the branch that makes most sense or has, you know, the room for something like kind of automatically so that our staff doesn't have to do as much, which I think is really great. And and again, to me, I hadn't used Polaris floating collection, but it sounds more like how it worked in that.
We're looking at duplicates and stuff like that. If the library already has it, then it's just gonna go down, like basically cascade down the waterfall until it gets to a branch that says, hey, I have space or I need this collection type or collection code in my branch. Send that one over to me. So I mean, it's very basic and it's got what we need, but if anybody has like any suggestions on how to make it better, we're always looking for any feedback, especially if you'd like to join us in the project. Like I said, the more the merrier. But yeah, if anybody's interested, I put my email in the chat. Let me know and I'll send it over.
Cool. Thanks for sharing that. I'm actually definitely interested as well because we've talked about we develop a collection using system money that's currently housed here because we're in a joint like the Iowa Public Library is up there, and then we have the resource collection on the shelves up there. But we've talked about maybe floating that out to our libraries. So what you're talking about, where it's like they don't have duplicates, they're a good candidate for having that on their shelf. Makes a lot of sense for what we were possibly discussing doing with that collection. So very interesting.
I'll send it over to you now then.
Thank you. All right, what else are people working on or have questions about?
I have a question. I cased the jQuery library and I didn't find an example, but I'm trying to figure out if anybody has done a counter on circulation. Like, so the use case we have is when we're routing out materials to the branches and trapping holds. When you're checking in all those items, it would be nice to have a counter that says you scanned in this many items. And if nobody has, I'll just keep looking. But here's always a good place to ask first.
You'd probably want some kind of code that counts the number of lines in the check-in screen in the table. So you'd be counting TR tags. And then You'd want that to run every time the page is loaded, because every time you scan, it reloads the page.
Okay. Thank you. That's a good start.
You're looking for a daily count or just like the count displayed on the check-in page?
Yeah,
Or
just during that session. So like you have it open, you scan in 180 items, you get a count of 180 items. You open the
Oh,
page
okay.
again the next day, you scan in 50 items, get a kit like that.
Do you have a dedicated scan-in machine?
Sorry?
Do you have a dedicated desk where you scan stuff in?
So for this particular task, it would be, yeah,
Okay.
but like anyone
you-
across the system could be scanning in items at the time, but like it would be
Yeah,
at that branch, right?
yeah, that makes it a little bit trickier. Because there's really no way to sync across with jQuery or JavaScript. That would just be for the current screen, as long as you didn't refresh it or anything. As soon as you refreshed, it would go away, unless you did the local storage like I did with the offline tool.
I mean, the current screen is totally fine.
So
So
I have some
suggest-
code that counts how many rows are currently visible on the hold queue, because we have weird stuff with fish. It says fish in that comment.
I
But
know what the fish are.
yeah, so you could try to adapt that. It's basically just saying, tell me how many rows are visible when the window loads
Okay. Or that particular
for that particular
Pound.
screen. Yeah.
And
So
that
you would change
particular-
so holds is the holds queue table. You would figure out what the table for checked in items is and swap that in. I can't guarantee that any of that would do exactly what you're looking for, but it might
Yep.
be a place to start.
The hold STTR is also something that need to change. All right, this is something to try out. Thank you, everybody.
hopefully, I know there's potentially be some work done on view-based circulation. So hopefully, but also unfortunately, that code will need to be updated once they have everything running asynchronously for check-ins and checkouts and stuff.
Yeah, you'd have to put it within a set interval or something like that, so it refreshes consistently.
And this, like, my thing is only looking at what's on the screen right now, which is complicated by the fact that there's a system preference that limits that. So ours is set to 20, so it would always cap out at 20. This is also a great idea for just a bug, though. Like, it would be handy to have the count of check-ins on the current session on that page, something
And
like
that
that.
does sound like a bug that is out there already. In fact, maybe I'll go looking for it now. That was all for me.
Kristi looks for that. Any other things people want to share or questions? Things you've been playing with?
I
Notices?
don't remember what I shared last time, so now I'm trying to think what I showed off already.
Oh, you showed off, I wish some of the recording, you showed off one where you were like adding format icons to the search results with the API. That was either last month or the month before. We do something very similar for like DVDs and Blu-rays to distinguish.
Oh yeah. Mhm.
I've added sort of the same thing, but instead of using the material type, it's the I've got images stored on the koha server, and then I append them to like below the cover image so it stands out that that's a Blu-ray or that's a DVD. So yeah, I enjoyed seeing that.
See what else we're running.
Did I share my custom expiration date last time based on card type?
I don't remember seeing that. You can share it again. I don't
Oh.
mind.
Okay. Let's see here. Okay, so when you make a new patron, the way our library policies are set up, certain patron types, the expiration date is 1 year, and for others, it's 5 years. So, like an adult resident would be 5 years. And so our staff were having to change the expiration date every single time they created a new card. So I made a JavaScript code that looks at the card type and then adds the correct number of years to the expiration or registration date. Yeah, registration date. So it takes 2025 adds 5 for resident cards. I'm trying to remember. I think it's yeah, scholarship cards are only 1 year. So then we go down here and it only adds 1 year instead of 5 years. And the default for our whole consortium is 2 years. So this was a way I was able to help our circulation staff out a little bit by auto completing the expiration date based on the card type.
So you have different rules for different branches.
Different card types.
So can you can't handle that with the enrollment period setting on the patron category?
Well, because we're sharing the same patron categories amongst all the consortium, everybody has different rules, and so the default consortium wide is 2 years. But our
Okay, I
specific
gotcha.
library wanted to do 5 years for resident and 1 year for, I think it's reciprocal, scholarship cards, and there was one other one. But yeah, I wrote the code so that it just looks at the type, the card type, and then it changes the date based on that.
But only if you're logged in at your branch.
Yeah, only if you're logged in at
Okay.
our branch. Yep.
That makes sense. Yeah, I don't think you shared that last time, so thanks for sharing that one. Anybody else? Cool things you've been doing? Kristi made a bug. Awesome. Love to see it.
I thought I might share a bug that's going through the process at the moment, if people are interested, about everyone's favorite table, the circulation and fines. And there's been lots of talks and lots of bugs over the years about fixing it up. So this bug, Martin from Open Fifth has done some stuff, and I just thought I'd show it. And it's similar if you've watched any of George or Christopher's bugs, you've probably seen similar. So I'm sure they'd welcome some feedback, and I will share the screen if I can figure it out. And Right. I'll just make it bigger. So is that big enough for people to see? So this is your normal circulation, and obviously there's not a lot of rules here. A real library has way more rules. So normally, you get this really long, the really long table, but with this, it just shows the relevant sections depending on these little buttons. So I think it's not that be all and end all of trying to fix that table, but I think it's if it makes it through, that'll be a nice easy step to try and improve some of that. And if you have things like recalls or other features on where there's different rules, then there'll be a button shows up for that. Anyway, that's all I was going to. I just thought people would like to see that, and if they wanted to comment on the bug, that would be really good.
Yes, I'm a big fan of that change. Because that table is too big for sure. And there's a lot of columns we don't use. So that'll be super handy.
I'm very tempted in the comment section to put plus 100 instead of plus 1 that I usually put. I think I need it because I'm always in the circulation rule, so that's perfect. That's so simple. Thank you, David.
Yeah, I'm sure Martin would appreciate people putting plus 100.
Yeah, we had someone in our consortium found one that lets you toggle columns on and off one by one, but it was really buggy. Like the widths wouldn't maintain when you'd scroll down so far, and sometimes the colors wouldn't change correctly to show which ones were on and which ones were off. This is much more elegant. I like that a lot.
All right. Anything else people want to talk about today? Share?
I just found something that I didn't even know what it was because it's on our test server. It's something I was working on months ago and then stopped. And actually there is a bug out for it. From 2000, unless there's a newer one, 2015, 16. One of our libraries was complaining. I think it's on when we were on Polaris, they could print out a checkout receipt for specific items. Or not a checkout receipt, but like a date due, So if a patron had 100 things checked out, they wouldn't have to print out all 100 things. They could just select this item, this item, this item, and then give them their due date. So I somehow have this working. Last I checked anyway. I can share that. It's vaguely interesting. Where's the share button? Screen 3. All right. So this only working on our test server and only on a specific branch, but like I added checkboxes to all the check-ins. I'm sure there's more work I need to do on this, but essentially when you go to regular print, we have our quick slip set up to only print out things that are recent, sort of like a session-based type of thing. And then print slip would typically give us all of that. And so I have it set up that anytime you have anything selected here, skip around a few, let's do 3, 1, 2, 3. It changes that to print selected items. I think I'm just like hiding everything else with CSS or JavaScript or something like on the actual receipt itself. Maybe I have a class set up for that. I don't remember, but I could share that code. But I forgot I even did this. I should probably ask if they want me to put it on production at some point.
Yeah, it looks like a media query with the print screen.
Very nice. Thank you for sharing that.
We would find that useful here too, because we have the same kind of patrons, I think.
I'll review what I wrote in case there's any glaring errors, and I can share that like the next meeting or something.
This is a good time to remind people about two things. The wiki, for one, like if you want to share customizations, putting on the jQuery wiki, is definitely the best way to get it out to the most people. We do also have for this SIG, I'm going to share my screen so you can see what I'm fumbling with. So for every SIG, if you go to the koha-US website and go to the special interest group page, we have a little documents folder for each SIG. So if there's code you want to share that's too big to share in chat, for example, there is a shared code folder in here. And as long as you're part of the Google group, you should be able to add things here. But if not, you can also send it along and we can add it to the group's collective knowledge base here. So that's just another open place to share your code if you're it's better to put it on the wiki, like I said. But if there's stuff that you're not comfortable putting on the wiki, or maybe it's got lots of custom fields and you want to make some notes about that or something, you can put it in there as well to workshop it. The wiki address is it's wiki.coopcommunity.org/something about jQuery. Trying to find it. I bet someone else will find it faster. Oh, there it is. There. Okay, that's the wiki address. And if you don't have a wiki account, you can get one or try. And if you fail, ask the Mattermost.
The registration emails are working now. They weren't working for quite a wee while, so you wouldn't get an email to confirm, but they are working now. I'm one of the people that approves them. I see them when they come through. So
Anything else people want to talk about before we close up shop for this month? All right, that's enough awkward silence for me. Thanks, everybody. We will meet again, same bat time, same bat channel in January, which is, we're on the third Thursday of every month, I believe. So that's going to be the 15th at whatever time zone you're in. I'm not going to do that math because I'll just slaughter it. And yeah, thanks everybody for coming. Hope everybody has a safe, happy holidays and get some time off. Looking forward to that.
What's that?
Yeah, I don't know either.
Thank you.
Thanks all.
Happy holidays.
Take care, everyone.
See you guys next month.
Bye.